main electoral college in August, which is between 22nd and 25th. So we have delegates in the districts, and there are 11. The NRM executive, the league executive by the district, councillors for older persons, and if that district has a municipality, they also bring those delegates. So currently what I'm doing, I go to a district and I reach those 9 or 11 people. We sit in a meeting, I present my issues, and I request for their vote. So I'm going through all the 40 districts. So I have done half of Teso, I've done the whole of Buked, the 7 districts. At the weekend, I entered. Mid last week, I entered Busoga.
And is your party giving you any kind of support?
My party?
Yes.
NRM?
NRM.
For now, no. But friends from NRM, friends from opposition.
Why are you pointing at me? I'm not your friend.
Oscar, many people are giving some support. Either fuel or money, because you need to
move around.
To move. But also you need to convince those people. Now, all the persons, generally speaking in Uganda, don't have much to their name.
Okay.
So you need to bring, either you go to their homes, or you bring them to a meeting. And that's a cost.
Yeah. And then for you, Emmanuel Dombo, what are you organizing? Now you are the party.
And of course,
or is the candidate?
Of course, I have picked nomination forms.
Right.
I have paid the 3 million.
Okay.
I'm now going this week to look for signatures for people to nominate me.
Right. For MP elderly.
Yes.
Okay. So
and they must be, the people nominating me must also be older person, 60 years and above.
Right.
In my electoral area.
Okay. Don't mind when Museveni goes, you're going to scrap all those nonsense of elderly.
Emmanuel,
Oscar,
what are you doing?
I read the other day that my brother Semujju had received their baptism certificate.
So you are
for PFF. Allow me to congratulate him and welcome him to the fray, because now we know progressively those who are going to meet are becoming clearer and clearer as we get organized. In NRM,
Honorable Domba, I wanted you to talk about NRM.
In the NRM
what
right now,
organizing
we are picking. People are picking the expression of interest. There are people expressing their interest, paying nomination fees, picking the forms, which they'll be returning from 17th of this month for nomination. As they do
for nomination as a candidate in
for
NRM.
LC5 in NRM LC5
NRM primary.
and members of parliament. But in the meantime, the Electoral Commission of NRM also takes this time to verify on their documents, so that we minimize on the period or on the cases whenever we go to court for people who have or who may have papers that have issues that must be clarified.
So you, the secretariat, is receiving nominations, and for each nomination 3 million is paid.
Issuing nomination
3 million shillings is paid
to the NRM
to the NRM, and 1 million for the chairperson's LC5.
Right. 3 million MP, 1 million to
LC5.
So where do they get these forms from, the application forms?
By the end of yesterday, we had about 2,000 who had picked their nomination
times
forms.
3 million. That's big money.
Nomination forms, and we believe that by the close of the exercise, we expect the numbers to be big enough. We shall come here, God willing, so that we can give the accountability.
Okay, so where can one NRM person, where can I pick up an NRM form for the primary?
For those, by the way, the exercise...
Use me as an example.
The exercise has been simultaneous, because even at the district level, those vying for councillors at the district and the chairperson LC3, they are also picking nomination forms and also paying fees as they have been directed. Those who want to pick, if you want
me as an example, yes.
If you want to contest for which constituency do you come from?
Wakiso.
If you
if
you wanted to contest, if you wanted to
is my grandfather's.
If you wanted to contest for woman MP for Wakiso,
no, I'm a man.
No, sorry. If you wanted to contest as MP of Kira,
lack of clarity in NRM,
and pick the forms, you just come to the NRM Electoral Commission,
right,
headed by Dr. Tanga Odoi, and the other commissioners will be there. And this time the exercise has been a little bit advanced, because you must prove membership, that you're a member of NRM. by extracting a membership slip, which must be printed by the NRM Secretariat in order to verify whether you are in the register or you are not.
Right. So to begin with, I'd go and register as an NRM person, pay an NRM fee, I get an NRM card, and then I'm good to go.
Absolutely, yes, but the registration ended a long time ago.
You must have registered long ago.
Okay. You're not taking any new registrations?
Absolutely not, because the cut-off date was communicated to everybody.
So if I want to vote NRM in January, February, I cannot vote for NRM?
No, voting you may, even if you are not a member of NRM, because that's why we are going to do campaigns. Although the structure of NRM is big, we shall use the structures to do mobilization and to vote, but we shall use them to convince other members from other parties or who may not have any party for them to come and vote NRM.
Okay. That's a quick update on NRM matters.
Oscar,
Yes.
To vote in NRM,
You must
you
be
must
NRM.
be a registered member of NRM. So the primaries we are going for,
Right.
you must be a member of NRM in order to vote.
For the primaries.
In order to stand for election, but also to vote.
But in the general election,
Yes.
you
In the
can-
general elections, yes.
Even
Hon
if you're
Semujju
not
can
in-
vote for me.
Right. Okay.
In general election, I am not an old person.
Let me go.
you need to go to Moses Ali.
Raymond, I have Raymond Mujuni in the studio, and Semujju knows Raymond is one of my favorite persons when he was still in the media, and not sure if he's still in the media or out of it, but you're most
I
welcome
am out
to the
of the
campaign.
active media. I'm actually looking forward to voting for the first time ever, because every election day I was either being deployed or on the desk. So now everyone in the studio has a chance to convince me to vote for them. Of course, I can't vote for Fono. I haven't reached the age.
Yeah, but can you vote for NRM? Like Honorable Dombo is saying, has he persuaded you enough?
I haven't been persuaded yet. I am yet to be persuaded by the NRM, but I think they have such a checkered history that it will be very hard for me to give them my vote.
you know, Oscar, there's somebody, a friend of Raymond, Charles Mpagi Manguhia.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
In the last election, he refused to come to the NRM. This time around, he has come to the NRM. So,
Genuinely?
Yes. Raymond, your time for coming to vote NRM.
Of course, in Toro, where I come from, we've never voted anyone who's not an NRM MP since multi-party politics came into force. That includes even 2016, when the chairman of the NRM campaigned for an independent candidate. The Toro voters promised him they would vote the bus, and they voted him and the NRM candidate, and skipped his candidate. So it's a difficult terrain there.
The chairman, you mean the president of Uganda?
Yes, he is the chairman of the NRM.
For independent.
Yes, he campaigned for an independent candidate called Kaliva against Alex Ruhonda, and people voted Alex.
People voted NRM.
Yes.
Right. Okay, Honorable Semujju, welcome to Gang.
Thank you.
I have Professor Mwangusia Ndebesa. He has allowed me to say it any way I want. We have really missed you.
He shares that name with the Congolese. There was a short man in Congo.
It is a royal name in Burundi.
You give him the microphone.
It is a royal name in Burundi, although I'm not royal. Unfortunately.
Who chose to give it to you?
Unfortunately, no. You consider Bantu migration.
Yeah.
So the Barundi, Bakongo, and the Bahororo are all Bantu, so there is no problem. There are different intonations and different sias and sas and whatever, but we are all in the Great Lakes region. So don't bother yourself looking for the etymology of the word Mwambusia. It all means actually the same. To make people cross all barriers. Yes. So you wanted to ask me whom to vote also?
Yes. Whether you've been persuaded by Honorable Dombo.
You see, for me, my constituency is now Uganda. So my vote is for those who are ready to practice sober politics. Anybody who deviates from that, I will not support them. So my issue is supporting, not voting.
Supporting, not voting.
Yes, I want to support the right civic ideals. If you are for justice, if you are for equality, if you are for inclusion, that you will be my candidate. And it doesn't matter whether I vote you or not, I can support you.
in that case, from the description you've given, you might end up voting NRM because I'm looking for the statistics on equality. Let me find out. The president gave his figures in his State of the Address. He said equality. I'm happy for you to give me that detail if you have it. He says literacy 86 was 43%. Now it is 80%. You as a professor, you would know that.
But I also know that Ubos gave us multidimensional poverty in Uganda, and they located the likes of Oponopondo's region and Karamoja and northern Uganda as 60% poor compared to, I think, Kampala, which was put as is it 5 or 3, and southwestern around 10. So I know that there is no equality there, but there is also political justice. I don't know whether everybody has equal access to power and resources.
So economic inequality in 2021 it was 41%, and now it is 38%. So economic inequality is going down.
No, I don't think it was economic inequality. It was income.
Right.
The two are different.
Income inequality.
Yes.
The president calls it economic inequality.
Economic inequality, we know those people who are poorer than others.
Right. So, what do you take from the president's State of the Nation address? In Daily Monitor says he was saying we are unstoppable. Uganda is unstoppable. What
I take from the State of the Nation address, assuming we have a nation, because I have a different interpretation and definition of a nation state. But anyway, the president is a politician, and I appreciate that. And a politician will give that one which he wants the potential supporters and supporters to listen to. So definitely he does not give the whole picture. Because, for example, on the economic front, which you started with, you talked about, he was talking about our export earnings increasing, which is true, isn't it? But he didn't tell us the trade deficit, that bit of trade deficit, which is $400 million US. That one is not in the interest of a politician, more so the one who is coming to ask for votes, to begin saying that, we have got a trade deficit of $400 million. You don't do that. Neither would you say that, for example, labor productivity in Uganda is lower than the whole of East Africa, the nation East Africa, or crop productivity is lowering down, is decreasing, or land productivity. That one wouldn't how to say it, or one would not say we have got a GDP rising. Yes, true, it is true. GDP because of gold exports, but which are not taxed accordingly. And that one will not talk about it. And neither would one who is a politician say that the Human Development Index of Uganda, I think 2024, we are put at 153 out of 193. That is at the Human Development Index report. And when one is talking about increasing of universities, definitely Uganda has had the universities increase, school structures have come up. But if you are going for elections, you wouldn't say, but the dropout rate of children at the P7, senior 4 and senior 6 is so much, almost, I don't know how many times those who go to the other level. You wouldn't say that. If you are talking about roads, you don't talk about the roads in Kampala, you talk about roads up country. Because
I came by Old Chira Road.
Yes,
it is incredible. I'm going to ask listeners send some photographs and we post.
Yeah, but you saw very good photographs about the roads up country, and also those are the tarmac roads, not the feeder roads. You wouldn't talk about that. There are very many things you wouldn't talk about when you are a politician, and you also somehow. I appreciate that you don't talk about the State of the Nation address is not the State of the Economy address. So you hardly talk about issues of democracy, issues of human rights, issues of national integration, because if you looked at the freedom index of Uganda, it is not something that would also be something. If I was even a politician and I'm going for elections, I wouldn't hurry to talk about that. We have talked about security. I wouldn't go and say that even my cows are being stolen, the goats are stolen, the coffee is stolen when it is still in the field. That is security. You don't talk about it. When you're talking about human development index, you don't talk about malnutrition rates in Uganda, because they are very high, and the general food insecurity on average is not so good. So you wouldn't talk about climate issues. You wouldn't talk about the biomass rate at which Uganda is losing the biomass in terms of climate change and vegetation. But overall, when you are giving that picture and you are a politician, you give the State of the Nation address in those areas where you have scored very highly, not polarization. Remember, when he was talking, opposition was not there. And a country which is so polarized like that, I don't think it is on the right path. And when you are talking to people and you are saying Buno Busaja to defeating, belittling some individuals that they are Busaja. So by and large, you don't even talk about transition, because everybody is waiting for a transition, but nobody talked about transition around that time because there is political uncertainty ahead. So as a politician, I expect that, and that is the picture you would give. You would have even said that Uganda is is number one in getting drunkards, at the level of regulating alcohol for social transformation. You wouldn't say that very many people are going to Butabika. I don't know why we are getting mad. Those are not your issues there. So I do appreciate what the president was presenting as a politician who is going for elections in less than 1 year.
And seeing that you're a mwalimu, you're a teacher, so in terms of marks, out of 100%, what would you give him?
These days we no longer mark by marks. We give remarks.
Remarks.
We give remarks.
So you have given the remarks.
You can either say good or fairly good or very good or excellent.
So what are the remarks you have given on those terms, on those of those descriptions?
Historians are not in the habit of giving those marks in those terms, but
you are giving us marks at the university, so you have changed it now.
The what?
You yourself, you are giving us marks.
I am saying these days, you were there long ago. How many years were you there? You are outdated now.
That time when I was in Makere, so you were not a historian.
Hold on. So
but even now, I'm no longer there myself. I'm also expired.
Yeah. Raymond, as you come to the microphone, we welcome Honorable Katuntu. Most welcome to Ghana, Abdul.
Thank you, but don't give an impression that I've just walked in.
I also don't want to give an impression that you walked in a long time ago.
Thanks, Oscar, and good morning, listeners.
So, Prof talks about exports here grew by 26% to 9.3 billion. I'll save a question of coffee for Honorable Semujju. It's one of his pet subjects. Overall, what do you take from a State of a Nation address?
Oscar, I'm keen to be sympathetic and separate the politics. Separate the politics from the development.
Okay.
And I think the State of the Nation addresses more the development, less the politics. I think on the whole, you'd be hard pressed if you look at the data to say that they haven't delivered. Life expectancy has gone up 68.2 right now. Basic delivery of services has improved, even though we complain about it here in Kampala. The roads have broken down and what, but the basic delivery of services has improved. And the OPM unit, the Office of the Prime Minister, has a service delivery unit which has those numbers, just access to hospitals, access to education and things like that. I think where the NRM has struggled a lot is in the urban constituencies where it's not voted. The business climate, for example, in the city centre has just become so terrible. From the roads to the taxes, I think on that front we can all agree they've not done well. On the civil and political rights front, it's been possibly one of the most terrible periods for the NRM. People's human rights have been trampled left, right, and center, particularly with regard to civil and political rights. But I'd be hard pressed to not be sympathetic, and that's why I said it's if you separate the development from the politics. You see, the politics can still be terrible when the country is developing. And I think that's where we are, that we have such terrible politics, but we also have development happening. And Prof talked about the Human Development Index. It's instructive to look across the region. Even the more advanced and developed economies like Kenya and Tanzania, they're not doing anywhere as good as we're doing. Whether you come down to strength of the currency,
he
whether you
talks
come
about
down
the currency.
to
Says
exports.
it's the most stable in Africa.
Yes, the most stable and in East
and
Africa.
inflation is at 3%.
So, I mean, even on human development, you'd be hard pressed. For example, if we go to the human development indicators, which is education, access to education, the number of Ugandans accessing basic education now has gone up than it was before. We can argue about the completion rates. Yes, no, we can argue about the completion rates, but the access to education has gone up. What about the quality? Again, yes.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, if we look at the hardcore data, it's not deniable that the number of people accessing education has gone up than it was before.
Yeah. Human development. Yesterday I drove into town on the weekday. It was Eid. I came into town and out of town for lunch, and I was quite scared with the level of boda and the aggressiveness of a boda. So yes, you have so many people now who have bought a boda. So there's progress on that.
Yeah, see the measure for human development.
5 million people have bodas.
Yes.
Is this in Kampala?
That's the economy of Uganda. 5 million bodas.
I think there are more. You might be talking about Kampala.
That's the data.
Yeah. So Oscar, they measure the typical measure for human development. The top of that is life expectancy, and on that front, the life expectancy is going nowhere near where we need to be, but it's 68.2. In the more advanced and robust economies, between 77 years and 80 years is where they are. So we are still on the march and still on the movement.
Okay.
But like I said, we split the development from the politics so that we deal with the politics. And in this studio, there are more politicians. So I think I'll leave the politics, the more established ones. Yeah.
I'll start with Honorable Semujju, then Honorable Katuntu, before crossing over to NRM. Honorable Semujju, as usual, you didn't go.
Yeah.
But you wanted him to talk about the basement. This is what Raymond is saying. Separate the two, development and human rights. And
no, you see, the State of Nation address is constitutional. It is like you, Oscar, if you are an MD and the company gives you a budget, annually you will be asked to account for that budget. That's what the State of Nation address should be. For any MP, all government departments that come to Parliament to ask for money, for approval, the first section of their policy statement is about performance. Every single ministry, local government, they will tell you this was our performance with the money that you gave us, this is what we didn't do, this is what we want. Ordinarily, that's why Museveni comes to present Parliament and to the country. I sympathize with Raymond. The most confusing thing about NRM are figures. They even fight themselves. During consideration of the last budget, Minister of Finance had different figures of the public debt. Bank of Uganda had another figure. The Auditor General had another figure. So I asked Gobi, who came with the finance, who do we believe? And I think now he issued a statement, because I saw the Auditor General saying now we have recalculated our debt, because Gobi was very furious. If you read the figures in the UBOS report, you will find a different picture. For example, and they have various reports, the one of multidimensional, but also the main report. UBOS tells you that the working age in Uganda as for our national policy, labor policy, 14 to 64 old. There are 25 million now in Uganda, 25 million people who are of working age. Only 9 are in some form of employment, only 9 million out of 25. And then when you go to look at the Bank of Uganda...
This is from the census
report. This report, you can go. I have it here. I'll send you. And then when you go to Bank of Uganda Financial Capability Report, Bank of Uganda tells you that of those people working, only less than 1% earn a million shilling and above of those who are working. Majority, about 43, are paid 150,000 per month. So that's your economy, Oscar. You have 25 million people are supposed to be working. Only 9 are working, are in some form of work. But of those who are in some form of work, only less than 1% earn a million and above. Majority, 150,000. People are hand to mouth. You ask each MP here, it's talking about access, including those who are from the villages. They are suffering. They are the ones who are paying for hospital bills, school fees, what. So for me, I don't want to go into the theory of economic professors, of GDP and because they are going to do calculations based on the performance of a country, not the performance of the individuals. Oscar, look, for example, the most lucrative business today in Uganda is lending government money. Every year, banks collect 11 trillion shilling in interest. South African banks, because you have 24 banks, only 4 are locally owned. The rest are South African, Kenyans and so forth. Because even the budget you do itself, that Museveni will be presenting next week, that budget, 38% of that budget is to service debt, to pay these Stambik where we pick money. So these are the figures as they are in all the government books. The only thing of late that I do is to pick a calculator and read these books as I do the calculation. Uganda, since independence, we have 1.7 million people, 1.7, who have academic qualification. 600 graduates with a degree, about 400 with a certificate, and another 600 with a diploma. You have a population of 45.9 million people. Only 1.7 have those academic qualification. But even those you can't employ. Oscar, you know them. They are in the Middle East working as house girls with their degrees from Professor Mwambuse. Your economy that is performing. Girls are looking for visas to go to Oman, to go to Dubai. We have about now more than 1 million girls who are in those countries. Some of them graduates. This one, the professor, the graduates, they're churning out.
He was teaching them the choice history. What job was he preparing them to have?
So if you are serious about the economy of Uganda and you want to measure it in terms of coffee export and cocoa and cotton, you're going to, because 62% of the population are still in agriculture. Only 2% are carrying out irrigation. Mechanized. That's the point I was making when I was making a response to the budget. You need 300 billion shilling to buy tractors. They are provided 60. And at that rate, you will need another 20 years for you to have tractors at all sub-counties. So the figures that Museveni presents, he presents them to any, I don't want to call them illiterate, but a population that doesn't read, that will not give, including MPs. Oscar, don't be surprised. I was responding to the budget. The vice chairperson of the budget committee of parliament, when I told him we are paying Congo, we are giving him money, he said it's not in the budget. Even him, he came to present a budget, he did not read these NRM fellows. So that's why Museveni enjoys them. When he's at Kororo, he will read the figures, misread them, they crap. Then he says unstoppable. Unstoppable where? 25 million Ugandans of the working age, only 9 are working. Only 1% of those who are working earn 1 million shilling. I remember Father Carlos, who was operating in the north at one time, he did an article in the Observer, and he said he had gone to an ATM card and corrected the receipts. And he said the balance on each receipt was less than 10,000. He was speaking about because they tell you banking now, people have access to banking. What do they bank there? So everybody withdraws 5,000, 2,000 and the balance and from here you can go at any banking hall here and collect those receipts. They are thrown in a dustbin. They will not inconvenience you because they are already thrown. And then look at people's balance. You will now know why people are struggling.
So in conclusion for now, I take it that
the state of national address, that's why M7 carefully he will go to Bigo bya Mugenyi, how man was created, how he when he came here.
M7 and Mwambusha are in the same category.
Because Oscar
Mwambusha refused to go into the history of a name. He's looking at recent times.
The real issues finally, Oscar, and I didn't say this when I was here, sometime back when looking at the budget. You pass a budget as parliament, like now it is 72 trillion. The actual money that they keep singing about youth and the people who are poor, who are about 14 million, is 1 trillion. We are spending 12 trillion on 400,000 government workers, including all of us. So you spend, because salaries alone is 8.5 trillion. Then the vehicle fuel, what you come to 12 trillion. So that's the money for 400,000 people. And then the 14 million who are poor, you give them 1 trillion. And you will see M7 going around checking on them and asking them. The other day he said, you people, they told me you have a relationship with poverty. I have come here to help you get out of poverty. So you've spent 2.4 billion shilling to drive a convoy to go and check on someone who has 1 pig. And then you drive to another one who has a tray of egg. You photograph yourself and then in turn to Kampala that you are breaking the relationship between people and poverty. So if you had a government worth a name, the budgeting and allocation of resources should seek, and that's what I told them in Parliament, should seek to address these social economic issues of the population, which it doesn't. And I illustrated the Oscar when I was in Parliament. We grew up in a village where the bigger people will be taken to the sitting room. All the boxes of meat, chicken, pilau, they will go to where they are seated. For you, they give you one container with some rice. And then they are busy inside quarreling. Why are you not getting satisfied making noise for everybody? That's what M7 does. So he has locked himself with the Dombo and Ofono in a sitting room, feasting on chicken, on meat, on fish, on mputa, on everything. They are asking the poor, vulnerable Ugandans outside, why are you making noise? You've made a relationship with poverty. That's what the State of National Address is.
Okay, Abdul. You were there.
Yes, I was. I'll always be there.
Yes.
I was elected to do that.
And what did you take from the State of a Nation address?
First of all, previously I've been having a lot of problems with the SON, as we call it, the State of the Nation address, because the president would go away from really explaining how the country is performing, and he goes into other things until this particular State of the Nation address. And I'm really, I'm happy with this particular State of the Nation if we go to it itself, because
in terms of
terms of content,
right.
In terms of content, he did what I do expect him to do, sector by sector. Performance, he gave the figures. Yes, maybe Bra would have problems with the figures. We can interrogate that, but at least he went. I'll give you an example. When you his usual weakness was only about 2 pages of the 51 about NRM ideology and so on. But from there, he went to peace, security, and regional stability. He went to political and economic resilience. He went to exports, giving detailed figures, sector by sector. He went to foreign direct investments. He went to domestic revenue mobilization. I think you need to congratulate his handlers this time around. They made him focus on really sectors of the country. Manufacturing. He went to energy, he went to size of the economy, agriculture production, and all those details. I agree with Professor Mambusha here, but from a different perspective. One, if you go and you start going for your weaknesses, you sometimes miss out on the strides you have made. So you don't go and say, by the way, we are doing badly here and so on and so forth. You just go and say, okay, on this one we've made this progress, on this we've made this progress, and so on. And the figures are there, Oscar. You may have a problem with them, but they are there. Fish, what, all those details, because of the 52 pages of the SONA. I think, because I've read it, I listened to it, and I've read almost the entire speech over and over again. I think 40% describe what the country is today. And this time, Semujju, I don't know whether you listened to him. He didn't so much, go into off-cuff. He restricted so much to the speech. Just a little bit of off-cuff humor here and there, but he restricted him to the speech. There is an opportunity for us now as members of parliament, because we debate this speech. And now we go into the details of it and interrogating the figures Honorable Semujju is talking about. Whether these figures as given by the president, very impressive of course, really are cooked figures, or they are proper figures in accordance with the government institutions and so on. If we can assume the president is going to continue being president for more than for some time. Okay, then the next we don't know what to happen. So, Oscar, I think this is what it should be. And I think whether it is Moses Byaruhanga who wrote it for him, this time congratulate him. He did a good job.
Yeah. And Moses Byaruhanga is one saying, please inform my former teacher, Prof. Ndewesa, who should be voting for OO, I guess based on age. Yes, that gold is taxed at $200 per kilo. And also Semujju is saying that the working age starts at 14. Does he expect the 14 to 23 years to be working or schooling?
I am not the national labor policy. Tell him to go and read.
But I also have a problem with that, because you see, when you look at the population as it is, there is no way you'll say that 25 million people are working people. It's not possible.
You have a problem with the policy.
It doesn't make sense. People are supposed to be in school and so on. You can't expect them to be working, because how many people are above 18 of the 49 million people? So there's something fundamentally wrong with some of these people who go to school and
who give figures.
No, I am quoting you. I'm quoting you. National policy. It's not my national.
Oscar, to clear the air.
Yes.
What the policy says is working age,
yes,
and what constitutes working. For example, it's illegal for anyone under 18 to participate in paid labor under the law. But you can be of working age at 14. You can help your parent in the farm. That's what they consider working age. And it's the policy there.
Yeah.
Let me tell you,
it is the Ofono Pondo's policy. Maybe me,
because you are just explaining people who are in school. Say, by the way, these are now not employed and so on.
But you should also be aware that in schools they are not there.
Yeah.
Because you enroll 2 million at P1, by P7 it is 700.
About 880.
They are not in school.
Let me, I'm going to come to Emmanuel Domba.
Ofono here, Oscar, just a second. You remember what O said here when we are discussing about minors? And he said he had employed some at his farm because they need to feed.
Yeah.
Have I said something wrong?
Honorable Semujju, I sent students to do work experience for 2 weeks.
You're talking about people who are on farm work.
Get experience. So at that point, they are working age.
And you are talking about employment?
No, not employment. Work, not employment. Raymond, Angelo here says to you, Angelo Izama, one of our gangs as well, says if Centenary Bank reported in its profit statement that management fees accounts are at Uganda shillings 380 billion. That's nearly half of its operating income. Yeah.
Yes.
So kind of corroborates with what Semujju is saying.
You see, Oscar, there's a thing. So in classic economics, inherent contradictions. The economy can both grow and not be distributive. We have samosas in this room, for example.
Yes.
If we distribute these samosas equitably across all of us, some of us may not get as good a picture as the others. But if the lady continues to bring more samosas, then the number that goes around us is different.
See, O has returned from
yes.
Well, usually he's
so the crisis we have here again, like I said, I'll surrender the politics to established politicians.
My age no longer allows me to get oily things.
The crisis we have is that we have an economy that's growing, but it's not distributing anywhere near enough. And this is what Semujju is referring to, that you have the number of people who are earning from the economy. There are those high net worth individuals that URA will tell you, for example, we have about 500 Ugandans who make close to 5 billion shillings every month from this economy. That's a whole different lifestyle from the rest of us who are average earners. In terms of bank accounts,
the only way he can account for his wealth, immense wealth he has, is under NRM.
I don't want to get into that. But the other
before NRM, how old was he?
NRM came here when I was 12.
I think the figure that would help us is the demand deposits, the one that Semujju was referring to, where people go to the ATM and demand deposits. So demand deposits is the amount of money available in the bank that people can demand and pick, and that figure has been growing up.
50%.
Yes, that figure has been growing up. That figure
has a point. Yes.
That figure is at about 21 trillion shillings at the moment. So, like I said, the measurement here we have a contradiction that the economy is growing, but it's not distributing. And the distribution is now a political matter.
So, Raymond, listen to this one. Nora Waraga tells you, on the Human Development Index, it is also acknowledged as increased by the UN. But if she sends an article here, in Human Development Index, it still lags in Uganda still lags in terms of gender equality.
That is true. That one, there's no contest.
What about regional equality?
That is also true.
Because there are some regions where you hardly get anybody even passing in grade 1 at a certain level. That is also a question of spatial inequality in the country.
May not speak about them, but that's where he's been campaigning lately. Even according to you, boss. Let's go to Honorable Dombo, who will say the State of the Nation address was excellent. So you can start from there.
Oscar.
You may want to disagree for the first time.
Give him the benefit of doubt.
Oscar, for 20 years, I was a member of parliament.
And a very good MP.
And continually listened to the president give the State of the Nation address. And I want to tell you that at one time there had been a proposal that we make an enabling law. The enabling law was proposed to require the president to give a comprehensive State of the Nation that captures a string of things within the economy. What
about politics?
That particular year, when the Honorable Katuntu and others came up with that proposition, I think, I don't know what had happened. When the president talked, you would see that there were many fundamentals that had not been addressed. I listened attentively this time. And in my chair, I was seated in the office because I did not go to Kololo because of the urgent things we're dealing with. I gave the president a standing ovation from my office because of the issues Honorable Katuntu has just mentioned. You see, the president has got 2 hours in order to capture the things that he considers important to tell the nation about the state of the nation. And 2, in his conclusion, he said he's going to deal with the issues of corruption and other issues on the budget day. So he deliberately omitted those because there is going to be another opportunity to deal with them, and he talked about the fundamentals on which the economy lies. Honorable Semujju Nganda is right. There are many issues that we must deal with in the economy, and the social life of Ugandans. The level of corruption that characterizes the institutions where people are registered en masse, showing the numbers that we have certain numbers because people want capitation grant. But when you get the only day when you are going to check those registering for the final exam, you discover that all along you have been funding children in primary schools who have not been actually there. But now the gap is being shown because of these omissions. These are things that we must deal with and the underlying factors which must happen, because there's been corruption in schools. People have been overstating the number of children. There have been an attempt to do statistics and enumeration. Now that head count is going to help us to confirm whether what the head teachers report is right. But for us recently, as a party secretariat, we just visited one of the districts in Omoro here. And the confessions we got from some of the teachers is very revealing. So, as the president talked about corruption, that's one of the areas that we feel that the president must deal with. Secondly, in order for the economy to run, or for the president to be able to fund security, job creation, and any other aspects of the economy, he must earn money. That's why people are fighting to go to parliament. You'd ask yourself, how would NUP be fighting against Semujju Nganda in the Kira for them to go and fight Museveni, if not to partake of what the economy is providing within parliament? So, because of that, therefore,
both you and Semujju are not on microphone. Continue. Emmanuel Dombo's voice is enough to cover all of you.
Because of that, therefore, we believe that this year's State of the Nation address covered the fundamentals, but also raises the gaps that are existing. The president is talking about skilling. When you got the skilling centers, recently I went to one of the farms in Gayaza here, and I went with my family and other farmers. What was so surprising is that the person who was teaching in that farm, the highest level of education was senior 4, but in the class we were still there with a professor from Makerere University, who had come to learn how to look after cattle and feed cattle. So skilling of Ugandans is a fundamental area that had been omitted, and we needed to integrate skilling right from the time when a child goes to school. When I joined Bukedi College Kachonga in 1978, we were doing metal workshop. And in my senior 4, the job that I was doing, I was repairing saucepans and cups and plates, because it was a skill that I had learned while I was in school. Right now, the majority of the children that we are teaching, nobody can do any skilling out of the 4 years education that they have. There has been a curriculum review now. They may begin addressing some of those. But these are fundamental gaps that are existing, and we shall appeal to members of parliament to help us. That, as the president raised here, we need the skilling of the young people. Those people are talking of going to Saudi Arabia with degrees. Somebody has studied history. Somebody has studied psychology. Somebody has...
I think history is useless.
No. History is not useless.
So what are you trying
to... But the employability...
What point are you trying to...
The employability...
Have I not been employed?
The opportunities...
And you were running to parliament looking for a job when I didn't go there?
Professor, I'm telling you that there are many children who have done history on the streets of Uganda. They are looking for jobs that are not available, and they have ended up being made in foreign countries. Those children, if they are given skills...
If you go there, you'll find their engineers.
If those children are given schools, those who go as engineers go as experts. They do better jobs and earn better money.
But even the historian can go there as an expert.
Well...
That is off topic. Continue.
So the issues the president raised, this was a fantastic But like Honorable Katuntu says, we now need to look into the figures and the statistics that has been given. Even the level of funding, if the president is raising challenging issues and areas that there must be intervention, and yet the members of parliament have made a budget, does the budget take into consideration the issues? Does it take consideration the issues that the president has raised? If it doesn't, and there's an opportunity for a supplementary expenditure, these are the issues now. You should be using the president's speech in order to overcome some of the issues that you have been asking. Because this is how we used to do it when we were in parliament. I don't know how you do it these days.
Let's go to Ofonopano on the State of the Nation address.
Yeah, Oscar, it is a truncated debate here, and we are not helping listeners, in my view, because you had said assessment of the state of the nation. Did the president's presentation give accurate reflection of the country? The heckler in Semujju, wait when I come to parliament and we heckle each other. For now, let us use the microphone.
You continue. I only have your microphone on. Let's be strong on the microphone.
Like Honorable Katuntu, Raymond, and Honorable Dombo, they have said, I think the presentation reflects the state of the country, its politics, its social terrain, its economic terrain. Did it cover everything comprehensively? No. Obviously not. Partly on account of time. But if you say in summary, the president tackled major areas. What are those major areas? In my view, there are four. The first one, obviously, the security, peace, stability and tranquility in the country. Is our country more stable today, more tranquil than 5 years ago, than 10 years ago, than 40 years ago? Obviously, yes. Is this tranquility being consolidated? Yes. And the president and all of us know that in Uganda today, you can move to wherever place you want, anytime. Particularly, no state agents will. No. You made your presentation.
Continue.
I know when we talk about history not being as irrelevant to the economy, you will jump on me. But yes. Your lack of knowledge about me does not mean I'm not, and I forgive you.
Continue. Just continue.
Yes. Mambusia, his history does not confer on him or in him comprehensive knowledge about individuals. No, it doesn't.
Hold on, Professor. Let him first finish.
I am saying so.
So here I didn't talk about Nguya Mawe. I challenged you on the statistics of human development, which he doesn't know.
On that one, the state of the country's security, as the president presented, is reflective of what is on the ground. Secondly, the president talked about the state of the economy, giving graphic details of where we are at micro, medium, and national level. And these are parameters or indices that are internationally set. For example, is our population living longer? Yes, it's living longer today than 5 years ago, as reflected by infant survival or reduction in infant mortality, a reduction in maternal mortality, increase in life expectancy.
Just pause there for a second.
Our economy is more diversified today than before.
We are still depending. First pause there and stop for a break and then come back to you. Back from the break, a bit of argument in the break as well. You were presenting.
Yes, I was saying, indeed, our economy today is more diversified than 10 years ago. Go to any shop in Uganda today, you will see that about between 40 and 60% of the goods in those shops are locally manufactured.
40%?
40, 60%, depending on where you go. 40. Yes. No. I'm talking about the structure of the economy. 30 years ago, 30 years ago, we were smuggling basic things: sugar, soap, soda, and beer. The state was the one distributing. Today, many of those things are locally manufactured. You can say they are Chinese companies or Indian companies that are here making them, but they are Ugandan businesses. They pay taxes to Uganda. We are still relying to some extent on donations from wealthier countries. But generally speaking, Uganda is able today to fund many more services and goods on its own. And I want to give just our own political area, governance. There was a time in this country when our governance institutions, parliament, our elections, our judiciary, our police was being recruited, trained, and funded only when the Commonwealth, particularly Britain and Canada, would say we now have money for you to recruit the police, for you to recruit the judges. Today, we are recruiting those judges, we are training them, we are paying them on our own. And therefore, in my assessment, the presentation of the president on that account reflects the state of the nation. Let us go to infrastructure. The 4 major or 5 major infrastructure in the country. If you go to roads are certainly improving. Are they sufficient? Certainly not. But they are improving. If you go, there is no border of Uganda today that you cannot drive and come back to Kampala in one day on account of relatively. I am talking about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Would you drive to Arua from Kampala and come back the same day? No. Would you go to Kisoro? Would you drive to Kisoro and come back the same day? No. Today you can drive from Kisoro to Moroto on a good road and probably even go back to Kisoro if you want to Moroto. So for me, yes, Masaka is on account of one, heavy traffic, but also broken road. But are there no other roads being done? There are other roads being done. The second area of infrastructure is just energy. Have we put energy in everybody's house, in everybody's factory? Obviously, no, yes, but we are 25% from where there was a time when we were 6%. Today we are 25%. And therefore, in terms of energy infrastructure, what the president presented reflects what is on the ground. Let's go to telecommunication. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, there were parts of this country, districts in this country, where you wouldn't even get a telephone call. You needed to climb on a tall tree. Those of us who travel in this country today, nearly every district, nearly every place now, has data connection. It may not be as reliable, but there's a data connection. You can do internet work there, you can do email there, you can do WhatsApp there, and you don't have big issues. Let's go to
Someone
education.
is telling you here that all those things you've mentioned so far are coming from improved global technology. Not necessarily related to NRM.
Go to Congo and have the same argument. Go to South Sudan and have the same argument. Go even to Sudan and have the same argument. If it is a global, no. If it is a global trend, then it should be everywhere. Let us look at our education. I agree. I agree, and I am very grateful for
present
for Honorable Bodombo. There have been people in the government who are fidgeting with figures for self-pecuniary interest. If you go to many of our schools, for example, and this should have been done or ought to be done by all elected leaders, just pay a courtesy call to any of your primary school or 2-3 primary schools in your constituencies and say, Mr. Headmaster, I have come, call students.